So tell me first off, Tammy, I mean, what's your reaction to this?
As a military wife, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? You know, usually you worry about your husband in Afghanistan or Iraq. You don't worry about your husband or other soldiers or other military family down in Texas. You figure you're on post, I'm safe, I'm okay. That's why so many of us live on post during deployments, because we feel safer here. And when I saw it on Twitter, I just could not believe. I'm like, no, this has got to be, somebody got their information wrong. And then more and more stuff started pouring in through there and Facebook, and talking to other military wives online, and they're like, yeah, this is actually happening, and just couldn't believe it.
And we've done stories obviously with you before, but you're very connected to military families. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I am connected to the military families here, as well as outside of Fort Carson as well. And yeah, everybody's just, they can't believe this is happening. This doesn't happen on post, like to the scale that it has, with seven people dead. It just doesn't happen. And especially here, with so many of the Fort Hood families having just moved to Fort Carson since the 4th ID has moved here, that they're worrying about their friends and their family back down in Texas, and are they okay, and when are we going to hear from them, and how are they dealing, if they are okay, how are they dealing with this, and what can we do for them? That's kind of like the biggest question, is we feel so helpless, and what can we do? So that's kind of on the forefront of everybody's minds right now.
And you've been talking to, people who've come from Fort Hood, and and you were telling me a little bit. How are they coping right now?
They're very, they're very concerned. They're very like, we can't believe this happened. We used to live there. We used to live in that housing area that they're talking about. We live right down the street from that school where the kids are still in lockdown. They just can't believe that this is happening. A lot of them are saying, I'm so glad to be here. That we are safe, and my husband is on his way home from work, and my kids are in the house and they're safe, and all of that kind of thing. But it's kind of really a mixed emotion of worry and now anger. People are how did this happen? How did they let this initial shooter, how did he be able to do this? And nobody picked up any signs or anything prior to this happening today.
And you live on Fort Carson, so that has to hit really close to home for you. How do you feel? Do you...
when you live on post, you kind of have this feeling of, I'm safe. That's why so many of us do live on post. It's because we have that, we have to show our ID when we go through the gate. There's this level of extra security that you might not get living in an apartment complex. Even if it's a gated community, you have the MPs that you can call. You have a certain level of security that isn't going to be breached. And what happened today, it just kind of shoots that theory out the water, that it can happen. And it can happen to the magnitude that it happened today, obviously. And so I feel, like, oh my gosh, could this happen here? I don't know. Prior to this happening today, I would have said no. It couldn't happen here. It couldn't happen at any Army installation, because we're safe and we're secure. And this kind of doesn't feel like that right now with what happened.
And you were telling me your husband's in Afghanistan.
Yes.
So, a lot of people, how are they reacting? And you said it's the middle of the night.
Yeah, I managed to talk to my husband. He just happened to get up, and in the middle of the night, he couldn't sleep, and turned on the computer and saw some of it, and contacted me and said, hey, what's going on? And, like I said, usually it's the other way around. They're just in a state of disbelief, like what? And some of them are from Fort Hood. They were stationed at Fort Hood, so they have friends and former coworkers that are there that they're concerned about, and they're not able to get in touch with them or find out really what's going on. They're kind of like all of us, just like in a state of disbelief, like this really happened on United States soil, and it was soldiers.
And does that make it harder? If
Yeah.
soldiers are...
Yeah, when we first heard, we heard, the gunman was dressed in ACUs, and we think, well, you can buy ACUs anywhere. You can go online and buy them. And you kind of sit there and you kind of go, well, no, it couldn't be. It just couldn't be. Not with more than one people and how many wounded and how many died. And as more information comes forward, you just go, oh my gosh, you know, you would have never known. You know, anybody anywhere can do this kind of thing. And it just, you know, it makes you feel a little less safe than you did before.
Well, thank you very much.